Out of the thousands of salespeople I've trained, whether they've been 21-year-old BDRs straight out of college or 60-year-old enterprise sellers with decades of experience, normally they do not follow up enough. They make 2 calls with no answer and say cold calling doesn't work. They send 5 videos with no response and say videos don't work. I used to be the same. I'd have 10 touches in my sequence, which is more than most. That would be 4 emails, 3 calls, and a few LinkedIn touches. And I thought that was enough, but everything changed. I met Lawrence Jackman, my colleague I talked about in the cold calling module. He'd have 30, 40, even 50 touches in his sequence with each lead. I thought customers would hate him, but the responses weren't, leave me alone. They were, hey, sorry I've not responded. I was amazed, but then I realized he was following up in a meaningful way. And later, I'll be running through Lawrence's sequences in more detail. But first, here's a little anecdote about myself. I closed the deal after 25 touch points with the Chief Revenue Officer across SMS, calls, LinkedIn, videos, voice notes, and emails. Now, the mad thing is I never spoke to him once, and he never replied to any of my messages. After 20 or so touches, it was disheartening that I'd not received a single reply, as I'd put a lot of effort into the personalization. But then one of his colleagues, his head of sales enablement, messaged me to say he found the content very informative and wanted his team to learn more. A few months later, they became a customer, but the mad thing is that I've still never spoken to the Chief Revenue Officer who initiated the sales process. So the moral of the story here is that sales and outbound often do not have obvious results, but in the background, people are seeing what you're doing, absorbing and actually enjoying it. So hopefully, now you're convinced about the importance of follow-up, let's get into what this module will include. We'll discuss how to follow up with buyers that don't respond and how to connect emails, calls, LinkedIn, videos, voice notes, and everything else we've already discussed in a meaningful way. We'll also talk about voicemails, which are essential for anyone that doesn't answer phone calls. So let's dive in. In the module on emails, I talked about why follow-up is so important and showed a story of how my colleague Lawrence increased his reply rate from 4 to 18% by incorporating more follow-ups in his sequence. But follow-up isn't just important on emails, it's important on every single medium you use, and you should never use one channel in isolation. Don't just call people, as certain people never answer their phone to unsolicited calls. I worked with a customer for 2 years, had met her for coffee in Miami, knew about her personal life and pet parrot, but once I called her on her cell and she said, please always book time with me in advance by email as my calendar is super busy. At first, I was offended, but I just realized that was her personality. And there's lots of people like that. As new generations start to become decision makers, they are generally even more phone shy. But the same way people don't answer their phones, some people never answer emails from strangers and will delete them without opening them. And some people are just useless with managing their inbox in general. My old COO and boss would never answer his emails to me, and I was his sales and marketing manager that reported directly to him. I'd literally have to text him to say, please read the email I just sent. The subject line is X. So this shows the importance of using different channels, even outside of the context of sales. By sending him a text, I ensured he opened my emails. Finally, there's LinkedIn. I post most days on LinkedIn, so it's a great way to reach me, and lots of sellers have got my attention there. But lots of people are not very active on LinkedIn, so it's not the channel for them. So you need to try all these different mediums to work out where your buyer is most likely to respond. Do they answer their cell phone or office line? Did they respond to LinkedIn messages, or did they reply more on email? As you go through your sequence and follow-ups, you'll work these things out. So let's get into how to structure a sequence. How do we combine all these different channels together? There's a man called Mike S, who is the CEO of a 200-person company. Mike tried to recruit Lawrence from me, but fortunately Lawrence is still working with me today. Why did he do that? Because he said Lawrence was the only person who did the triple touch on him. He said that most outreach he receives is junk. But for the 5% that is relevant, often he wants to schedule a meeting, but he forgets, and then the salesperson either just uses one channel or doesn't follow up enough. So Mike was very impressed with Lawrence's skills as he called him, sent him a LinkedIn request, and an email all in one day. The triple touch. Now you may be thinking, isn't this all very spammy? 3 touches in one day. If your messaging is self-centered and irrelevant, then yes, it's spammy. But if you've done your research, are providing value to them by using all the tips from our other modules and genuinely believe you can help them, then no, it's not spammy, and actually your persistence is appreciated, like was the case with Lawrence here. Want to make the triple touch even crazier? Make it a quadruple with a voicemail. Now you may be thinking, who on earth leaves voicemails these days? Well, I do for a start, and here's why. People are picking up their phone much less than they used to. Connect rates for unknown numbers are under 5% according to Connect and Sell data analysing millions of cold calls. That means less than 1 in 20 calls will be answered from strangers. I think of myself. I will answer a call to an unknown number, but only if I'm free, and that's rare as I'm normally in meetings. But I do listen to all voicemails. A voicemail is different to a call as the person can listen to it in their own time on their own terms. It also gives context on who's calling. On an email or LinkedIn message, someone can see your name and company, but in a call from an unknown number, they have absolutely no idea who you are. Okay, so maybe you're just warming up to voicemails, but you're thinking, what do I say in a voicemail? The standard advice is to ask someone to call you back, but please don't do that. If they're a stranger, the chances of that happening are very low. So this is what you should do instead. Pair your voicemail with an email and LinkedIn request that provides value. So here's how that looks. Jeff, this is Michael from Cosmic Growth. I saw you're hiring some new salespeople in London, so I'll send an email with a playbook template that can help you onboard them quicker. The subject line is New Hires London. You'd then send them the email along these lines. Jeff, saw you're hiring new salespeople in London, so just left you a voicemail. I've attached a sales playbook that has helped other fintechs ramp up their new salespeople. So why does this work? 1, the email is providing a piece of content that can help them with their role. 2, a voicemail is a great way to draw attention to something, but it has a short lifespan. I delete voicemails from over a week ago, but I often look at old emails, and you can also use words to search for emails, and you can't use search on voicemails. Now that we've covered voicemails, let's move on to something even wilder and something I get even more pushback on: SMS and text. Now that's the end of this free video, but if you'd like to have unlimited access to the full course and watch the rest of this video, including tips for texting and SMS, you can sign up in the link below.